Hi, good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's all good today. Today is Thursday, unlike our usual workshop session, which is usually on a Wednesday, but today is a special day. It's on a Tuesday because we have two special guests that's joining us today. So, before I start, let me just go through a bit of housekeeping, and let me first introduce myself. So my name is Atika. I will be the main trainer for today's session. With me today is also my colleague Chandru. He will be helping with any of the questions that you have. If you have any questions, you can put up in the chat or the Q&A, I think. Yeah, Q&A box as well. So you should be able to ask any questions. If I didn't see that, if our guest speakers won't see, didn't notice them, Chandru will be helping to nudge us into the direction. So feel free to always ask questions. If you have any questions, don't wait until the end so that we can address it as soon as we see your questions, okay? All right, so as I mentioned, we will have two guest speakers today. We're very fortunate that we have two people that will be joining us on this session. So stay tuned for the rest of the session because they will be joining us. They will be joining us in the later sessions, okay? And you will get to see who they are and what will they be sharing. Okay, so this workshop, as you may know, is on the assessment on open learning. So this workshop is mainly on the designing and setting up outcome-based assessment on open learning. So we won't be touching on the automatic assessment, but mainly on the outcome-based assessment, okay? For those who have joined our previous workshop, you can still join the course, join the previous courses and participate in the activities. You can find the other courses in the ambassador page, like ambassador program page, okay? I think Chandru will be sharing the link in the chat if you want to find out more. All right. So for those who have joined us, who are with us today, feel free to also introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know where you're from. I think I know some of you guys, those who have joined our previous workshop as well. So thank you for coming back. And we hope to see you up until the end of the series, okay? All right, so I don't want to waste much time on this. So I don't want to waste too much time on this. So let's get right to the workshop, course. Okay, so for the workshop course, for those who have known about, who have the link, feel free to get into the course right away. But for those who first time joined us, here's the link. I'm pasting the link in the chat. Okay. All right. Let me now start sharing my screen so that you can see my screen for the course. Okay, let's see. Screen 2. Share. Okay, can you see my screen? Chandu, can you see the screen? It's the right screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Okay, let's see. All right. Okay, so I am actually, for those who haven't joined this course yet, I am going to give you like 2 minutes to join into the course. As I mentioned, I have posted the link in the chat. Oh, I'm so sorry. The link. Okay, let me share the right link. Apparently, I've been sharing the workshop 3 link. Okay, I got myself confused too.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I've shared the correct link in the chat. Hopefully, it will lead you to this one. Okay. OpenLearning Basic 4, designing and setting up outcome-based assessment on OpenLearning. Okay, so I'm just going to give you guys 2 minutes to join into the course. For those who have joined, feel free to look around first, or also while also introducing yourselves in the chat as well. Let us know where you guys are joining from. Okay. Right. Thank you, Chandru. If anything, as I mentioned, just ask in the chat, and my colleague will help you. We also have Mashita joining us today, my colleague Mashita. So there's two people that will be helping you up with any questions that you have. So don't hesitate to ask any questions. We will try our best to answer it as soon as we can. Okay. All right. Okay. Right. I hope everyone is in the course already. So let's get started. Okay. So for this workshop, you will learn about setting up assessment reports on OpenLearning to authentically assess your learners. So this are mainly an outcome-based assessments. Okay. We will not be looking into the automatic assessments for such as for activities such as quiz. All right. So, but before we get into how to set up the reports, let's take a look at your base that you have. Okay. So let's try to complete this pre-course activity, which is assessment in your course. So what are the assessments that you currently have in your course? Most of you already have an assessment. I believe that all of you have created your own assessment, but it's usually catered for physical classes. So we want to make sure that this also works for an online course. Okay. So before we can transform a face-to-face assessment to online assessment, let's think of what are your course learning outcomes. Okay. Most of you have already adapted your course learning outcome into an outcome that suits an online learning, and it is also a measurable learning outcome. Okay. Most of you have done that, so feel free to take a look at your course, take a look at your own course, your learning outcome, and put it in the side, because we're going to be using that a lot today. Okay, so what are the assessments that you already have in place to measure if students have achieved the outcome? So for example, you have case studies write-up, project paper analysis, poster development, anything that you have. I want you to take that as well. So learning outcome and also the assessment that you have. Okay. So we have an example, like for the UTS course, an introduction to computer game design. One of the course outcome was, by the end of the course, students will be able to critique games in terms of their function as dynamic system of formal and dramatic elements in order to create interactive experiences. So this is the outcome for this course, okay? So, and in order for them to assess that outcome, the assessment that they have is for the students to critique the game, okay? So, as I mentioned to you, take your outcome and the assessment that you plan to do with that outcome, okay? And I want you to share with us in this comment section below, okay? Outcome and the assessment that you plan to do in order for you to measure that outcome. How do you plan to see that the learners have achieved their outcome? Okay. All right. So I am going to give you guys. I think this will be a simple one if you already have. So I'm just going to give you like 5 minutes to take your outcome and the assessment and write it down over here. Okay. Don't forget to put in your topic or the title of the course as well. Okay, so 5 minutes for you to write this. Okay, just have a timer. So we don't go way too long. All right. Okay. Okay, looks like Chandu already did have this. So Chandu is very prepared for this. So let's have okay. Let's see, for Chandu's outcome is you can just put one outcome and one of your assessment, but for Chandu is using 3 outcomes for one of the assessment to showcase what the assessment is. So the outcome that he has is explain challenges in teaching online safety to young learners, identify different types of threats in cyberspace, and make an informed decision on how to stay safe online. And how does he plan to assess this? What are the assessment that he has is that you can think of is the assessment is the learners will go through one real case and identify the type of threat. Okay, so this would help him to identify whether the learners have achieved the outcome or not just yet. Okay, so that's a good example by Chandru. Thank you, Chandru, for sharing that. Okay, no worries. Take your time, find your outcome, find your document that you wanted to do, pull it up, and let's try to do. Okay, we have Nadia. Nadia is always so fast in our workshops. I always see her very fast in posting her comments. Okay, Nadia has a course for ethics and digital citizenship. So upon completing this course, the learner should be able to review 3 basic principles of ethics within the context of technology and social media usage, connect ethical concepts to practice responsible behavior as digital citizens, and draft a digital ethics guideline for yourself or an organization of your choice. Oh, really good outcome. And the assessment that she plans to do is draft a 5-item digital ethics guideline for self or for a specific organization and comment on others' guideline. So by having to draft this guideline, I think this would be the last activity, right? Final activity. So by if the students are able to draft this guideline, they have showcased that they have reviewed the basic principles of ethics. They can connect the ethical concepts, and also lastly draft the digital ethics of guideline. So it's basically like three outcome in one assessment, which is what we wanted. Most of the time, if you can have an activity that connects all outcome, that is really good. Okay, this is really good. Thank you, Nadia. Okay, let's see if we have more people. Okay, there's 30 seconds more for you guys to share. Feel free to share it while you can. Okay. Let's see. There goes the timer. Okay, let's see if there's any other. All right. No worries. If you guys need more time to write it out, feel free to write it on your own time. But you can see from Chandru's and Nadia postings, these are some of the very good examples. So, but don't worry if yours are still a work in progress. We can work on it as we go. Okay, don't worry about it. All right, so that is our first activity. So those who are still writing it, don't worry, we are still using it throughout this workshop. So hold on to it. If you have it ready, just submit it here. But throughout this workshop, we will be using the same one. Okay. All right. So we have another activity, right? For this, this will be an additional activity for you to do on your own time, which is an activity called the new normal. So the new normal and an alternative way to look at assessment and how to do it. So for this activity, I have linked a blog post by our colleague Mashita, our head of learning services, Mashita, who shared some tips on what makes a good online assessment. So let me just open it here. So this is the blog. So you can read it. It's just a 3-minute read that Mashita has shared over here. So you can just read through it, what makes a good online assessment, how to design assessment for your online course, and the challenges of shifting to online assessment. So Mashita has been giving you some tips on how to create your online assessment. So in this blog, actually Mashita talks about how we should move away from the secure and automatically graded assessment like quizzes or those closed-ended assessment when it comes to online assessment. Okay, because online courses are not and should not be the same as face-to-face classes. Okay, so in this blog, Mashita gives some tips on how to design the assessment for your online course. But actually, at the end of the day, even in this workshop itself, the goal is for our learners learning, right? We want to see the growth and transformation in the learners learning, where the learners conversation and thinking should move away from what's my grade for this course, and it should be more towards what have I learned from this course. Okay, we don't want them to be fixated on the grade itself. We want them to learn because they wanted to, because there's more to it than just grades. Okay, so keep that in mind when you design your assessment later on. Okay, all right, so this is as I mentioned, an optional an added activity for you to do later on. Just go through the blog post and share your thoughts on it in the comment section under here. Okay, so just give your thoughts regarding the points. If you disagree or agree with the writer, if you have any new ideas about assessment after reading the post, or if you are interested to find out how this type of assessment can be done as well. So feel free to share all of those in the comment section once you have read the blog post. Okay, all right. Okay, now let's see where we're headed for this workshop. Okay, so before we move to the content, the technical part of the workshop itself, let's take a look at where we are heading and what you will achieve by the end of this workshop. So the workshop objectives and outcome here are by the end of the so in this workshop, you will learn how to set up an assessment report on OpenLearning to assess a collection of learners' work to represent evidence of learning. Okay, so this is your main aim. Okay, and by the end of this workshop, you will be able to review your course outcomes, contents, and learning activities to ensure alignment, clarify what is outcome criteria, and also create an outcome-based assessment report to assess on OpenLearning. So this, by the end of this workshop, we hope that you are able to do all three of this. Okay. All right. Okay, let's look at the overview of this workshop. So for today's session, we have 3 sessions. We are divided into 3 sessions, which is Introduction to Assessment, Assessment on OpenLearning, and Assessment Report. So introduction, we will explore the concept of assessment, and under assessment on OpenLearning is where we will start on the technical part. We will look into the alignment of your outcome and the evidence. So we will also guide you on how to check your outcome as well. And on the last part is where you will be developing the assessment report, where you will set up your criteria and weightage for each criterion. And we will also introduce you to the different types of assessment that are available on OpenLearning. Okay, all right. Okay, so are you ready to start? I hope everyone is ready, because we are going to start with the first part, which is what is assessment. Okay, so let's start at the basics, which is assessment. Assessment is something we do to measure whether a student has achieved the course outcome. If something is included as a course outcome, you need an assessment to measure whether the students have achieved it. Okay, so when we started, I showed you the example of the I mentioned you the example of the UTS course and Introduction to Computer Games. So the course outcome was students will be able to critique games in terms of their function as dynamic system of formal and dramatic elements in order to create interactive experience. So that's the outcome that they have for the learners. And the assessment that they have for that is for the students to critique a game. So from there itself, you can see the alignment, okay? The alignment from the outcome and the activities, the assessment. So this is what you want. If you have an outcome, you should have an activity in order for you to measure whether the learners have achieved that outcome or not. Okay. So You can also have one assessment that address many or all of the outcomes that you have. For example, like the ones that Chandru and Nadia shared just now. Those are examples that have multiple outcomes for one activities. You can also have one outcome per one assessment as well. Okay, so it's up to you. But my suggestion is always to have a final activity that addresses all of the outcomes, so that it's you can see by the end of the course that they have achieved and fulfilled that outcome, those outcomes they have. So for those who are not familiar with alignment, you can read a bit more about constructive alignment over here in the spoiler over here. But because we mentioned this before, we are not going to touch much about it. Okay, so you can read this on your own time on constructive alignment. What is it about? Okay. All right. So now we are going to talk about outcome-based education. So in our if you have watched our webinar last year, we have a different guest, Dr. Aisha, from UMP, who shared her views on the outcome-based education. So, but this year we have a different guest, which is Prof. Nurahima from UUM to help to explain more about outcome-based education. So a bit about Prof. Nurahima over here is that Prof is Professor of Curriculum and Instruction at the School of Education in UUM. Her areas of expertise include curriculum design and development, the scholarship of teaching and learning, educational evaluation, and qualitative research. So Prof. Nura is also the former director of Academic Excellence Development Union, Department of Academic Affairs, and the former director of Self-Accreditation Unit in UUM. And for those who are watching right now, Prof. Nura is already with us, so I am going to hand it over, pass this session to Prof. Nura to explain more about the outcome-based education. Prof, you're on mute.
Right. Okay, thank you very much, Atika. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Can you hear me well?
Yes, very well.
Right, thank you. Sorry, I'm still with the background of the earlier workshop. I hope it's okay because I'm going to be here only for a short while, about half an hour or so, just to give an overview of the outcome-based education. I see that we have about 14, is it 14 different, yeah, 14 kat sini ya. 16 participants, including everyone here. All right, so what I'm going to do here is just to give a very brief overview of outcome-based, which I think probably you already know about it, but it's just revisit, yeah, so that we will be able to just get, and the slides are from the ministry as well as the ones that I've used for several of my workshops at UUM. Anyone from UUM here? Okay, it's okay, because I do see some list of names there. Okay, another one is that to also share guidelines from the one that my team and I prepared during the pandemic. So it's basically something that we also hold on until today on how we can actually see the alignment of the assessment with the activities and the learning outcomes of whatever that you need to prepare for your courses, as well as having a look at what you can actually make sure that the criteria of what is important during the pandemic or now is post-pandemic also, you can still subscribe to the same criteria as we embark on activities, whether it is synchronous or asynchronous learning outcomes. Yeah, so am I going to share, Tika, or are you going to share, or what? I share dulu, yeah?
You can share your screen.
Okay, right. Right. Very briefly here, as I mentioned, it is on OBE, and as per School of Education at University Utara Malaysia, we ensure that every academic staff members subscribe to this particular system, as well as ensure that they are given training, yeah, because it's very, very important to know exactly what you'll be involved in your own classroom practice. So the one that we have here is nothing new. I think most of you are aware that components which are related to OBE, philosophically, we are looking at three parts. The main ones would be you designing your curriculum, all right? And then as you design things which are related to the learning outcome will be related to the delivery itself, the instruction, yeah? So within the curriculum delivery, those activities which you create, all right, for your course, need to be aligned with the LOs. And of course, at the end of it, it has to have some measurement so that you'll be able to see whether it's going all right, it's effective. So it's going to be touching on or be related to the assessment part, all right? So all these are actually part of the continuous improvement of for the students actually, and within the circle of what you do in the OBE is to have that the one on the right here, all right, identify goals, objectives, the specific approaches, the measurements, and then look again with the results, sharing probably with your peers, with your group members who are teaching the same course, and then probably there is a need to make changes, and then the whole steps will be iterated, yeah, or it's in a circle in which you will actually repeat within the course itself, or if there are more than one members of teaching in the course, the team members will have to do it for the whole groups, yeah, and and eventually come up with the analysis for the program. And having said that, we're going to tie the alignment again. As I say, this is a revisit for you, in which you will see that the understanding or the fundamentals of how you actually do all this CA or the constructive alignment comes from the what you actually go through with the stakeholders, or what you actually do with your needs analysis, so that you will be able to know you are preparing geared towards what is needed, yeah, by the stakeholders. So among other things that you probably will check yourself first will be the professional bodies, if you have any for your programs. And of course, that will be aligned to the standard program, yeah, program of each specifications by the specialization, all right? And within that also, there is, if you're doing the postgraduate, there will be the standard program for the postgraduate quality assurance as given by JPT ataupun the Ministry of Education, Higher Education. And then there will be some requirements by the institutions of higher learning, depending whether sometimes the public institutions will require certain sets, yeah, based on Senate approval. Yeah, so that again is counted for part of the things that you need to ensure, all right, that you look into those aspects. And of course, analysis from or feedback comments from the industries. Yeah, so sometimes you have panels from the industries and doing other studies related to the students, whether the exit surveys, which is connected to students who are probably in the few final semesters, semester 5, semester 6, and so forth, or the alumni themselves, all right, students who have graduated, all right, so that you will be able to see the progress of the curriculum. Then when you have taken care of the stakeholders, those three parts, the PEO, the PLO, the CLO has to be aligned. And this is the connection that you have to actually check through so that they will all match the 11 learning outcome cluster, the 5 clusters, and the 11, usually the PLO will actually be within the 5 clusters, yeah, as noted by the MQA. So this is really very, very short in the explanation, because it's just an overview. And if you've already understood that, all right, we need to see the next step of how you can actually align the learning outcomes and the assessment. And of course, one person that you must read from your sources, in those days, in 2002, Biggs came up with this diagram, all right, and it's something that we all should understand, so that you will be able to do the right thing for your course, yeah, and do the right thing for your curriculum, yeah, or the program as a whole. So defining the intended learning outcomes comes first, all right, so that when you have that learning outcome intended written, all right, you will then go to the next step of looking at or choosing the teaching learning activities which will actually be aligned with the learning outcomes, the intended learning outcomes. So within that, the teaching learning activities that that you probably have to also bear in mind will be from the 3 different levels. Yeah, it's from your perspective as a teacher, as an instructor, or if there's a group of you doing that particular teaching of the course, it can come from the different peer, peer checking, your doing the peer group work or teamwork. And then the self-control is when you actually do your own reflection, yeah, so that you will also think about what is best, yeah, for your students in terms of those activities. Now, in the assessing students' learning outcome to see how well they match what was intended, this is where before you arrive at the final grade, you would look at some of the criteria. All right, you can see that the outcome is in the middle there. All right, because you want the assessment tasks to also be aligned to the middle curriculum outcome there. And in the assessment task that is been given by Biggs there, it's marked, it's written that the marking criteria need to be to differentiate between these levels. So the levels, the levels that they put A, the very best understanding there, actually we also subscribe to Bloom's taxonomy, or the revised Bloom's taxonomy. Yeah, so the 6 levels of what we already know from the knowledge until the creating. Yeah, and when you actually look at the verbs used there, all right, you can actually see that the actions or behavioral can be observed, all right, and with that it can be measured at the end of your activities, and therefore that can be reflected as part of the evidence for OBE. Yeah, I think that's the thing that we have to ensure. Yeah. Now, within that, next is to ensure that you understand what changes from the initial MOHI work, all right, or MOHI's indication of the levels and the changes from the MQF 1.0 to 2.0. All right. So sometimes people change from the syllabus when they prepare in 1.0, and they automatically prepare to fit the MKF 2.0, but not knowing where the some of those aspects that they have prepared earlier in the 1.0 move to 2.0. So this table actually gives you an indication so that you will not run away so much, from the previous ones. And when we actually do this, then we know that it fits back. And if there are some of the classes not being met, then you can actually prepare new ones to fit into the matrix of your learning outcomes. So these are the ones that usually we, at UUM, for instance, I can only give my experience from the institutions itself in my context. When we actually did this with all the instructors, they were, they could understand better, all right, and they will actually be able to go through, yeah. And another slides that I would like to share with you would be the, I'm going to close this and put another share screen. All right, can you see the guidelines here? Atika, can you see?
Not yet.
Not yet?
I can see the.
Because it's already.
I can see the.
No, because it's already on my screen, but okay, let me share again. Stop sharing. The second one that I'd like to share is this one. All right, can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, right. This comes from guidelines which we actually prepared during the pandemic, but we're still using it until today because, as you have received, majority of you probably know that we can actually go through the remote learning or the online learning until next year, either middle of next year, as allowed by the Ministry of Education and the MQA. And then after that, we have to go back to full. If you are doing conventional, that you have to go back to the face-to-face, yeah. And only those run as ODL can actually go through as what you have prepared in the MQA document. So we're still hanging on to this as we go through the assessment. And basically in this guideline, we gave there's a team of us who actually prepared this, and there are several chapters which looks at the assessment, all right, and matters related to learning assessment as in chapter 3, rubrics and the vetting and grading system and so forth. Yeah, so this gives everyone, the committee members, to actually help out when I was at the Academic Excellence Development Unit of Halewa Academy or HA. So what I want to go through with you now is to look at what would be some of the, sorry, I scrolled past case about, I just want to show you the table that we use, all right, for the strategies, all right. Now, in the division of assessment, we actually informed that there are two types, which everybody here also already know, the synchronous assessment versus the asynchronous. And for them to actually look at how they can prepare what kind of assessment for their course is to have these headings ataupun kata the criteria used, yeah. And among others, right, as we look at synchronous here, would be the strategies of you doing online quizzes, all right, and probably this is what you are, you have been preparing together with just now. I see some of the tips given by Mashita, all right, or the overview of what Atika has gone through with some of what you have prepared. The type of assessment is in the first column because we want to ensure that everybody put down what kind of assessment that you think you want to do synchronously in your classroom, and then followed by the CAP, yeah, the cognitive, affective, and the psychomotor domains that you like to cover, yeah, for your particular assessment. At that time, all right, when pandemic was in 2020 and 2021, internet accessibility is a big issue, yeah, because you know that the students were in their, not in campus, very few of them in campus, and majority of them actually are away and probably they don't have internet access. So we actually divided this third column here so that the kind of activities you can do for high and medium or low, none, right, or moderate, yeah, so that they would actually be able to connect. Okay, I have issues with this kind of students. What activities can I do? All right, and they can mix and match at different levels if they know that certain groups of their students have different issues. At that time, we allow to have a variation of assessment based on how your students have are facing difficulties during the accessibility of internet. So the fourth column is when we told them that you have this issue of accessibility connected to the implementation with the suggested tools, because some tools can use with a higher, internet accessibility, bandwidth, and so forth, while some can actually use a better with moderate or low accessibility. So that's another column that we also put here. And then the fifth one is to have some tutorial links for them to go through. Now, remember, we were forced in 2020, not everyone is prepared during that pandemic. So we've got different groups of people, some instructors who are very comfortable with face-to-face, they don't use online at all. So they would actually have difficulty because they say, how are we going to learn this, immediately? So this is the accessibility that we give to those instructors so that they will be able to have that tutorial link themselves, and they can actually have the self-independent learning at their own pace. Yeah, and then the last column is to put the remarks. The remarks is because we want to ensure that whether we give some sort of notes or tips there, if you have the MCQs, the multiple choice questions or short answers or essay type questions, and then whether you want to use higher order thinking skills or lower order thinking skills, depending on the different groups, as well as the, there's a difference also between the UG, the undergraduates, and the postgraduate courses, and also whether there are some who actually come to us and say, hey, they have difficulty because they have large group in their class, as opposed to those who actually have smaller, 20 and below. Yeah, so those are kind of things that we also put in the remarks. All these are only guidelines. That means it doesn't mean that you have to use it, but we say this is a guideline, then you can mix and match, and you should know better which classroom practice is best for your students, yeah, during those 2 years. And until today, all right, the training are still ongoing, especially for new instructors coming to UUM. So we basically use this, and I would like to share this with you so that probably is going to, if you can fit any of this, otherwise, you can think of other strategies for the synchronous assessment. So let's have a look at here for high or medium internet accessibility, different forms that we ask them to look at probably you can use the easy ones like online quiz. We've got the UUM online platform, all right, that they can use, but some people say no, it's difficult to reach the UUM portal, therefore you can still use the Google form or any other that the instructors may have the online learning using class marker and so forth. And if you don't have any problems because they have high internet accessibility, they can still do online, and then they have these oral examinations. Yeah, so the Viva Voce, the other oral tests that people have within their syllabus, they can still do that. All right, no problem with those issues. Or online presentation, whether you have the online presentation be done in a group, all right, or maybe individually, they can still subscribe to some of these. We are open to all other applications. Actually, UUM subscribe to WebEx. We have two actually, WebEx as well as Zoom. And so they can actually connect at any platform that they want to use. And then for online discussion, we actually ask them to record, so that should anything happen during the intersection, maybe there are difficulties in the accessibility and so forth, the instructor can just pass the link back to the students so that they can actually watch on their own. Yeah? Anything that they're doing in the class, whether it's discussions or assessment itself. Yeah, and in the asynchronous assessment, we still stick to the same 6 columns given there, all right? But you will see on the first column of type of assessment, there will be variations. And this is when we actually gave more input, because a lot of these strategies for asynchronous would require the evidence for rubrics. Yeah. And if you see the online quiz or test examination, it's still the same, but they can actually use any other platforms of tools for implementation, and be like, Socrative or Edpuzzle or using Kahoot or whatever other tools that they are used. These ones are run by the University Teaching and Learning Center, Training Center there on weekly basis. Yeah, so it's open all the time, and then people can actually go in and learn during the sessions. And for the asynchronous, this is the part where we allow assessment for take home or open book, or take home closed book. All right, and we've got different guidelines also. This is one that I am showing you the guidelines as a whole, but within each of these we have different guidelines for each type. Yeah, so if you have take home open book, would have one guideline with the procedures, flow charts, and so forth. Take home closed book would be a different one. All right, and then projects and so forth. Yeah, and the same thing, we will give the tips for the development of those questions as they prepare, so that currently now we have already developed the guideline for specific type of web-based examination, because we've already subscribed to the proctoring system for the online learning as UUM has approved. And so other things like the written reports, projects, or doing reflective writing, essays, case study, problem-based learning, assessing them using the cognitive, higher order thinking skills, cognitive level, you will see that the students are more open to, doing things that may take more than certain number of days. Yeah, so it's the period being given, but what we will actually train the instructors how would they monitor the students' progress? I think that's the most important thing. Yeah, and within that is what the instructors would like to have access to, yeah, so that they will know which amount that students have or who has difficulties as they are doing some of their assignments online. Projects also is there, all right, and portfolio. I think one of the favorites during the synchronous two-year pandemic sessions was the portfolio, and of course the e-portfolio has to be done correct in a correct manner. So we ensure that there are rubrics to measure what exactly that you want the students to do in the portfolio assessment. Yeah, and the portfolio can range. Yeah, sometimes because they convert their 40% final exam to portfolio. All right, and that's when they actually need to show and monitor that it's been done accordingly for the to align and to align with their learning outcomes again. Yeah, so that it's not that they just change accordingly, but not not looking at the constructive alignment. And video presentation, screencasting, slide casting. Some of these are very technical with the certain specialization. So people in the multimedia, people in the IT, yeah, School of Computing, they would actually have a lot of this synchronous activities being done, and then they ensure that students can have high accessibility to the internet. The traditional mind mapping is very is a favorite among the MPUs, yeah, kursus-kursus kenegaraan, those lower order thinking skills where they actually measure more of the knowledge and understanding the two lower levels. Yeah, so that one is also another thing that we mind mapping is another one that we also let them choose. And then, of course, if you have mind mapping, you can do the traditionally, or they can also subscribe to the digital mind mapping. Yeah, and this will be another way of looking at the component. So all these, as I show you, it comes with the rubrics. Yeah, so of course we remind instructors also about the ethical issues. Yeah, things having to do with academic dishonesty and so forth, as they are looking into the proctoring system, so that we could also avoid the plagiarism and so forth. And but what is more important is the later chapter of the rubrics. Yeah. So we taught the instructors two kinds of rubrics, which is very much related to assessment per se, and you need to know this. Every instructor, you prepare something, you should know how to develop your rubrics, because in the evidence that every course submit for the for our OBE system, you have to show not just the questions that you have tab with the activities and the learning outcomes, but we also check on or monitor their rubrics. Yeah, so two types will be the holistic, and the other one would be the analytical. So we give them examples, all right, of what the two types means. The analytical ones would actually have some form of descriptors, yeah, as you indicate the percentages of what you expect them to prepare during the assessment given. Yeah, so this is an example of analytic rubrics with the descriptors here on the criteria that you have written on the left. Yeah, so you can see that in the holistic rubrics, you don't need to have the indicators stands there, because you give as a whole, yeah, secara menyeluruh, holistically. So you can have something like this. You still have the percentages written here, but the criteria indicates that if you achieve these, way of writing, or producing your work in the assessment, therefore you are at this level. Yeah, so this is secara holistic saja. Yeah, so both can be used depending on your own course, and then we give some examples from each of the assessment which I have mentioned earlier in the synchronous and the asynchronous strategies. In the case study, for instance, we gave table 3.3 because a normal case study would actually have these sections, their required sections, number 1 to number 7. Yeah. So that means from executive summary until the spelling, grammar, and presentation. So if it's using the holistic guidelines, we will have this rubrics given so that they will actually prepare what would be their they can choose whether they want to do holistic or the descriptors analytically, but these are the subdivisions of the required sections to be handled. And for the for the case report, then if you subscribe to analytical just now, all right, so the descriptors will be here, all right, in the and again we give this as a guideline for the instructors. Instructors can still modify, yeah, all things within the analytical or holistic rubrics there, so that you can actually fit your own learning outcome. Yeah. So we guide them, right, so that they will actually prepare everything. Now, if a lot of the postgraduate courses will actually go through reflective writing, because it's one of the high percentage of assessment being given for postgraduates. Yeah, so we actually taught them, okay, there are 4 types of reflective writing. So these are the 4 types, and what would be the understanding of the different levels as written here, and therefore they can actually prepare their own rubrics for the reflective journal or the reflective writing that they want their students to prepare. Yeah. So this is another option. Then you also have the online portfolio, or the e-portfolio, as I mentioned, one of the favorites of the assessment. So we also taught them how you can actually prepare your e-portfolio. Now, these are some of the samples that we got from best practices in other, whether it's online or the team actually modified to suit the different courses or programs that we have at UUM. But then we put a note there, it's up to you when you want to prepare for your own course or for your own program, you can still modify the rubrics. Yeah, because at the end of it, we will check back the evidence of your rubrics with the learning outcome evidence. Then, okay, that's it. I think that's the last one, because the last chapter is on vetting and grading system. I will not go over with that, because you know that the each institution will have different way of looking at the the vetting as well as the grading system. So I think I'm here to just share a very short way of how UUM practice our assessment based on the two strategies of synchronous and asynchronous. Okay, I think I'm just on time. I should finish by 10:15 or 10:10, right?
Thank you so much, Prof. Noura. I think that's very valuable that you shared about the moderate use of internet as well, and the different types of activities that they can use, and the different the moderate, high of internet use. So that as much as we think online learning, everyone's supposed to be online all the time, we have to think about the students, whether they have internet connectivity, high internet connectivity or not, right? So I think that's really great that you shared that part, because I really forgot to think about that as well. And yes, and also I like that the rubrics that you shared are very good, very standard. It's good for us to follow a certain standard of a rubrics so that everyone can understand. So even if other people come in, they can assess the same way that you did as well. Thank you so much for sharing, Prof. Noura.
Right, thank you.
If you guys have any questions for Prof. Noura, you can ask in the chat, and while she's here, she can answer that. If she is already away later, I can pass it to her later on. Okay, so I'm going to continue on our session, more on our session. So that was from the views of Prof. Noura. You can also listen from the views of our previous speaker, Dr. Aisha, in this video over here on your own time. Okay, so this is also under outcome-based education, but it's a different view from a different person. Okay, so you can take your own time to listen that later on after our session. Okay, so if you can see here, it's 52 minutes, but it's uncut version. So take your time on listening it on your own time. Okay. Okay, so let's go to the next part, which is under assessment. The assessment on open learning. Okay, so for this part, we are going to take a look more into the assessment, how to design assessment on open learning. So how Prof. Noura mentioned that just now, every institution have their own way of grading and everything. So it's nearly similar like that to how open learning works. You can still use how your institution graded, but the assessment is on open learning are mainly outcome-based assessment. Okay, so you can still use the rubrics that you have, the assessment and everything, but it has to be aligned to your outcome. Okay, so on open learning, our goal is to provide effective learning experience for learners to be able to evaluate and educators to be able to evaluate the learners' learning authentically. Okay, so to that end, we have the open learning platform are designed around the system so that the course outcome of a course, you assess the assessment on the course outcome rather than the specific assignments, exam, or other activities, box checking activities. So if you can see over here, the image over here, this is similar to the course alignment that I mentioned, where the activities, the assessment are outcome-based assessment. So you can see here, the middle over here are the course outcome, And then on the side, we have the course content and activities, which aligns to the course outcome. And our assessment report over here in the pink one are also aligned to the outcome. So when you create the report, your report in OpenLearning, it has to be aligned to an outcome. Okay. So this is mainly for the open-ended ones. Okay. But we also suggest that when you have quizzes or anything, those should be aligned to their outcome as well. Okay. So before we get into this activity, we have another guest who have graciously volunteered to show how she did her course on OpenLearning as well. So if you have joined us in the previous session, you might already know our guest right now, which is Dr. Fatima from UKM. Okay, so she has graciously volunteered to do another session for this to show how she did her course on her assessment on OpenLearning. Okay, I'm going to give this session to you, Dr. Fatima.
Okay, thank you, Atika. Yes, hello everyone. Hello, future OpenLearning ambassadors. Thank you very much for the sharing by Prof. Rahima. I think it was very useful for me as well to see all the rubrics and guideline. I am Fatima from the Mathematical Science Department, so I don't have as much as theoretical know-how as Prof. Rahima, but I think I am a practitioner because I actually done a course on OpenLearning. So let me share my screen first. Okay, oops. So first, I think on your OpenLearning page, you have this template, right? The assessment template. So what I did was from my course at UKM, I had a course called Network Science, and I mapped the introductory part into this assessment design template. So first I put it as 3 criteria that needs to be fulfilled: criteria 1, criteria 2, and criteria 3. But these criteria are all mapped to the course learning outcome, which I have set for my course here. So my course is called Networks. So I have put the course learning outcome here. In UKM, we call it HPK, Hasil Pembelajaran Khusus, but also CLO, course learning outcome. So for each course learning outcome, I have a hashtag, and I will usually put the hashtag for the assessment to be linked to this course learning outcome for my guidance and the students as well. So there's LO1, LO2, and LO3 here. There's 3 course learning outcomes. So bearing that in mind, I did my assessment. I filled up my assessment template, OL assessment template, and I put first criteria, second criteria, and third criteria, all to complete my course learning outcome. But then when you want to choose the assessment type, I found the OpenLearning template provided here. I don't know if your course is similar as mine, but on my OpenLearning Basic 4 webpage, we have the choose your assessment type here. You can go here, and then they have 4 assessment types to be chosen from: band, categories, numeric, pass, and fail. So if you click on band, you can get this information. Very well aligned, somewhat aligned, not aligned. But you can also get the rubric here, like for example, rubric like Prof. Rahima shown just now. So there's like very general rubric that we can follow. There's description, display center point. It's a very general guide. So this is what I followed to be implemented. So if you go back to your own course, okay, sorry, my email. If you go back to your own course, you can see here on the side, there's the assessment button, and you can go to the report design. Okay, so in report design, you put, I have put the 3 learning outcome and how you want to achieve the outcome. So this is the course learning outcome, this is the question, this course learning outcome, this is the question. And you can go to, let me go to edit. And then you can add the, so for example, for this first course learning outcome, the CLO is identify and describe the concept of network analysis. But the question that needs to be answered in order to achieve this CLO is whether the learner can effectively describe the basic network concept. And I put the weight to be 50% because this is an introductory course, so the concept is very important. But then the assessment type, you can, I can put a comment here, evaluated through activity, where learners are asked to describe and submit an image, and I can put the hashtag as the, to refer to the first CLO. So we can choose the assessment type here, bands, category, numeric, pass-fail. So I choose band. And then we can just put the description 1, 2, 3, and the range. So I put description like convincing, not very convincing, very good description, like this and spot. So you can tag the post. So to make multiple posts, you can decide what to do with it. So you can add a lot of things. So for this one, I think I chose, for the second one, I chose pass and fail. So for pass and fail, it will be more subjective, I feel, because we as the educator will have to decide whether they have pass or fail in building the network in my case, or whatever course learning outcome that you had in mind. And the third one, I chose numeric. So for numeric, you can have a number, put like a percentage or mark from their works, from the works that they uploaded in here. Okay. So basically what I did was I just downloaded this OpenLearning course assessment design form. And then I went to the OpenLearning basics here to choose what type of assessment that I want to do for each of the course learning outcome, bands, categories, numeric, pass, fail. Yeah. And then I put it here also. And I an MCQ question. So this is category of pass fail. And then I also did an MCQ question. Because I did an MCQ question, you can see in my report design, I also have an MCQ question here to directly contribute to the marks. So I think an MCQ question or some other activities that can where their marks can be directly calculated will be helpful, because it would certainly help in the asynchronous learning, and we don't have to subjectively evaluate their performance. So for example, the MCQ question that I did was in this part, degree. So I did, so here is the video, and then an MCQ question at the bottom part. So this is easy one question to be evaluated. So there is also an option of to add these immediate responses to add to their marks and to add it to the assessment in report design. Okay, so I think that is what I did. So if anyone has any question about what I did in terms of assessment, you can ask question. If not, then I'll give it back to Atika.
Thank you, Devariba. Can you show? Sorry, can you show a bit on your document a bit?
Sure.
Can you explain a bit on how did you come up with the criteria? Did the criteria come up from one certain single activity, or I see that criteria 1 and then criteria 2. Is it for one activity, criteria one activity, criteria 2 another activity, or is it for the same activity?
Actually, for here, I say it will, the description says that it will be evaluated through activities where the learners are asked to describe a network and submit an animation network. So there are few activities. So activity 1, I ask them to snap a picture. Okay, they think that this is network, so they are. And then next step, I give the names for the components of the network, so they have to identify each component. So for, that's why the weightage is quite high for criteria 1. So because there are a few activities that I intend to collect for this criteria, collect together. And for the MCQ question just now, evaluated from the answer of the MCQ question, but also calculation of the degree, because I have another question where they have to calculate a degree, give it as a comment or something. So it still requires my evaluation. Maybe, I don't know, maybe an easier way would be to put it like into an essay answer where they can easily the MCQ is the easiest, where they can select the answer. That is an option also. But maybe the student, if they write it differently, then perhaps can also be a bit subjective and give marks. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for your sharing. I think this would definitely help those who will be coming up with their report in a bit, and also for sharing how you created your report on the OpenLearning platform as well.
And I think my report is in the OpenLearning basic.
Yes.
So they can just download, just find my face with the pink headscarf there. You can click the report if you want to copy, because I think I also copied from somebody else or the template. So I mean, copying is allowed as long as you understand what you're doing. Yes.
Yes, that's a good point as well. So to help you with creating your report later on, which you will be submitting as part of your activity for the workshop, you can look at other participants' submission, like Dr. Fatima's, and see how they did their reports as well. So yeah, thank you so much for that tip.
Yeah, shortcuts, yeah.
Check.
Learning from others.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fatima. I'll continue with this. So for those who have more questions on this to Dr. Fatima, you can just ask right away in the chat. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so let's continue our workshop session. So as Dr. Fatima has shown you in her own course and the report that she shared, the document report that she shared, you can see that in the document, there's the first column is the outcome. So that's the one that she follows in order for her to put in the criteria and then the assessment type. Okay, so all assessment on OpenLearning are aligned to the outcome. So that's what we want. In order for it, for us to make sure that you have an aligned activity, constructive alignment are there in your course, let's try to do this activity, okay? So referring to your own course on OpenLearning, I want you to, in this text box under here, I want you to share your course outcomes and list the evidence you want to see that will fulfill the course outcome, okay? I think for those who have like the assessment in the previously in the assessment that you have, for example, the UTS course, the graphic design course, you have one assessment one outcome and one assessment, right? That they show. So that assessment and how they wanted to measure whether the learners can, I think, sorry, I have to refer back to what was it again. In the UTS course just now, the outcome was for them to be able to, to be able to critique games, right? In terms of their functions, dynamics, or formal dramatic elements in order to create interactive experience. And the assessment is for the students to critique a game. So that's very, very subjective, very open, very general, right? So how do you know that the learners are able to critique a game? Are they just going to like write a report, write a summary, say, oh yeah, this game is not good? Does that fully, are you okay with that measurement? Okay, students say this this game is not good, I'm going to give him 100. Is that a form of measurement? So what they did for that is, like for example, is this is for a graphic design course. So the outcome is to apply a graphic design elements to produce an effective design in Photoshop. So how they wanted to see whether the learners are able to apply the graphic design elements are that they have this evidence that they wanted to see whether the learners have achieved it or not. So one is they are able to give an opinion on how lines, shapes, and textures are used. They are able to sketch a company logo. They can share images of suitable font ideas, and the final product is an advertisement to promote the business idea. So once the learners are able to do everything in this, all of this, they are able to do it, well, maybe they are able to do, means that they have achieved this outcome, okay? So for your own course, the outcome that you have shared in here, what is the evidence that you want to see in order for the learners, in order for you to be able to measure that the learners have fulfilled their outcome, have achieved that outcome, okay? So I want you to share that in here, the course outcomes and the evidence, okay? So for this activity, I am also going to give you 5 minutes for you to do this, okay? If you need more time, we'll see after the 5 minutes. If not, we'll move to the next part, okay? Okay, try to do this in 5 minutes. There's a bit like 40 seconds more. Try to post in your answers. Here. And now we don't have anybody yet. Okay, that's the timer. You guys need more time. I can see that there you haven't shared anything yet. So I'm just going to look into some of the sharing that past participants have shared in here. Okay, so let's look at this sharing by Fazlin here. So the outcome that she has is identify the main features of augmented reality or AR. So the evidence that she uses is watch a 3-minute video describing a main feature of AR and answer 10 multiple choice questions of the main features of AR. Okay, so this is more of a close-ended activity, which is valid as well. But for this activity, I wanted to, if you can, try to have those that are open-ended activities or project-based activities. Okay, so let's see for this one from Yasmin. The outcome that she has is for construct sentences using idioms, and the evidence is that the learners are able to choose 3 idioms that they like and then write a short essay on any topic that they want using the 3 idioms that they have chosen in not more than 120 words. Okay, so that's the evidence that are able to that she wants the learners are able to do. Okay, so if the learners are able to choose 3 idioms, then they pass one part. And then another one, if they are able to write a short essay using the 3 idioms that they have chosen in not more than 120 words. And then if I are able to do that based on the rubrics that she has, and then means that the learners have achieved that outcome already. Okay, so those are some of the examples. Okay, let's look at last one by Annalisa over here. Annalisa has delivered an effective oral presentation. So the evidence is write a story with a 3-minute story based on a personal experience, something that the learners have heard, or even something from a book or movie. And then use a PowerPoint slide to present their story or ideas. Record their oral presentation and review their presentation. So for her, it's very extensive. For this, this outcome, there's 4 parts of evidence that the learners have to do in order for her to measure whether the learners have achieved that outcome. Okay, so that is something that I want you to think about. It can just be one evidence. It's okay as well. You don't have to have an extensive one, but if you do have an extensive one, like the outcome is very big, it is good to have an extensive one in order for you to see and measure whether the learners have achieved the outcome or not. Okay, so all of these are good examples that you can take into consideration for your own course. Okay, all right, so if you guys aren't ready yet, you can do this on your own time. But feel free to do this after the workshop as well. So I'm going to move on the next part. Okay, So once you have that evidence, this is actually how it will look like. This is the reason why I want you to think about the outcome and the evidence. Okay, because when you set up the assessment report on OpenLearning, this is how it looks like on the assessor view. Okay, so this report will look like this is the outcome for the course. Let me try to make it slightly bigger. Oh, it's too big, but I think it's okay. Okay, so this is the outcome that you have, and then this is the criteria. The criteria is the evidence that you have, right? So like for the example over here, I think it's not the same so much. So the criteria is the distance between the element used in the design appropriate. So the assessor should know whether they are appropriate or not. So it's just a matter of pass or fail. So if the design is appropriate, they'll pass. If not, they'll fail. So it's very simple, and then they have a weightage for that as well. And then is the chosen color palette picked properly? So for this one, it has categories. So this is the work, the evidence that the learners have sent in for the activities. And then the assessor will evaluate whether the chosen color palette are picked properly or not, and then they decide whether they get an A or B or C or so on. So this is how it looks like in the report itself. So I want you to take a look at how this looks like, because so that you have an idea on how you will plan your own report later on. Okay. Okay, and then, okay, in the student's view, it's nearly similar as well. They'll see it something like that, but like for example, the same one over here, the learners are able to see whether they pass or fail, and then but they are not able to click lah. But they can see all the rubrics are there, whether they're pass or fail. So that is what they'll see in their own view, the learner's view. Okay. Okay. So I want you to remember how this looks like and how you planned your own outcome and evidence, because this is how you will set it up on your report on OpenLearning. Okay. Okay. Now let's go to a bit of technical side. We are going to start to set up our report on OpenLearning, and the first thing that we need to do is, of course, the outcome. Okay, if you have created your course and you have joined our second workshop, I think you should already set up the learning outcome. So setting up the learning outcome is just like creating your shopping list. So at the end of it, you want to be able to get everything that you have listed, right? So this is the same. You as an educator, you want the learners to check all the outcomes that you have, check all the lists, make sure that they by the end of this course, they have gone through everything, they are able to do everything, right? That's what we want. So in assessment design, it's all about setting the right outcomes. So how should your outcomes look like? Of course, it should begin with a verb, articulate what learners will know or be able to do by the end of the course. So that's the base idea of an outcome. Right? So we talked about this in, I think, in the first 3 courses, we talked about outcome. So you can, if you want to know more about this, you can head on to the first 3 courses to refresh your mind again. Okay, so for this part, this activity, if you have not set your learning outcome, you can do so by going to the into your own course. Go into your own course, and then on your left tab, go to the course setup, and landing page. Okay, so maybe I shouldn't show it here. So this is my own course. Okay. So you need to go into the course that you built before, and go to course setup. Click on landing page. Okay, and then let's wait for a bit. Landing page. Sorry, salah. Outcomes. Course setup. Outcomes. Okay. So once you click outcome, it will lead you to this page where you have course objective and learning outcome. So if you have your course objective ready, you can just put it in. But the main one that we want is learning outcome. Okay. So just put your learning outcome. If you have 2, put 2. If you have 10, put 10. But put one outcome per each box. Okay. So if you need to add more, just click add outcome and then put one of the outcome. Okay, and then remember to put the outcome tags. Okay, this is very important for you to have, because this is the one that you will use to tag your activities, your outcome to the activities that you have. Okay, so just do a simple one. Like for this one is applied graphic design elements. So the tags will be applied design elements. As long as you understand what it is, it's okay. Whatever outcomes that you have. Okay, and if you want to rearrange it, you can do so as well. Just at this 3 lines over here, just rearrange however you want. Okay, and once you're happy and okay with everything, you have set all the outcomes that you have, just click save. Okay. Okay, so once you have set up your learning outcomes, come back to this page, this workshop page, and click set. I've set my learning outcomes in the outcomes page. Okay, all done. Okay. All right, now let's go to the tagging activities with outcome. Okay, so as I mentioned, the learning outcome, there's the tagging part over there. That one is the part that's you will use in order for you to tag your outcome to the activities, so that it will appear on your assessment report later on. Okay, so you see the alignment over here. That's so that you can easily align everything, and when you assess the activity later on, you don't have to come back to a different pages, back and forth. Okay. Okay. So now tagging with outcomes. So you can use the outcome tags to link course content, activities, and learners' posts to the learning outcomes. The tags will automatically be attached to any post made by learners. So by now you should have set up your learning outcomes like I've shown you just now, and also the shorthand tags, which is on the right side, right? So next part is, where do you tag it? Okay, so there's 2 ways for you to tag. Either you tag a page or you tag the widget, the activity widget. Okay, so I'll show you how to tag the page first. So page tags can indicate to the learners that the content and activities on the page are related to a particular outcome. So for example, this the screenshot over here, this is a page, and on top of the page, the learners can also see the outcome that you have set for that page. Okay, sometimes you have just one outcome for that page, it's okay as well, as long as there is an outcome that is set to the page. Means that content is aligned to an outcome that you have. Okay, so how you do this, let me see. How you do this is very simple. You go to a page that you have. For example, I'll go to any page over here, size and space, or maybe size and space over here. Okay, so you can see up here, there's no tagging yet, right? So how you can do this is click edit. Once you click that, you can see there's the box over here, right? So just also click on it and select the outcome that you have. Select the outcome. The outcome that will show up here are the ones that you set in the outcome page just now. Okay, so you can see maybe for this one, apply design elements and apply design principles. So that's the outcome that I want. So and also you can also write one. So these are the main outcome. If you have a specific outcome for that page, like quiz 1, you want to tag that as well, a different tag. So you can just type it out and quiz 1. So you can see that the outcome is still there, but it's slightly different than the main outcome that you have. The main one has this leaf, and the one that you write down is like this. So when you click view, your learners are able to see the outcome that you have set over here. Okay. So it means that the whole page is now tagged to that outcome. And if you have a quiz, this quiz will also be tagged with that outcome. Okay. So this works, page tagging works more for quizzes and also contents. Okay. And then for posting widget, so aside from the page tagging, you can be more specific to tag to the activity itself. Okay. So as I mentioned, like in a page, you can have multiple outcomes, and then for that specific activity, it's just one outcome. So you can just that activity, you can have tag a specific outcome for that activity. Okay. So you for posting widget tagging, you can also set outcomes on a specific activity widget instead of the entire page. This tag will automatically be attached to any post made from this activity. So for example, this screenshot below shows how to tag it. Okay, so this is for the widget post tags, and under the sharing settings, you can see how to tag it. So this is how to tag it. Let me share. Let me just delete this first so that I don't. Okay, let me find a page. So this. Okay, so for this page, I have this activity. So widget tagging only works for the ones that are this orange colored one: post text, post image, post file, and also like group activities, post link, post page, and share anything. So only orange colored widgets, okay? So which is the posting widgets. So for this one, this is a post text widget. Go to share settings over here, and then you see course alignment tags. You can see all the taggings for that activity. So if you want to add more, just click on it. You can just use the main outcome that you have. But if you want to be more specific, activity 1, line shape and texture, and test, you can add this in to be more specific. Okay, so when during the assessment report, it just showcases this tagging for that report instead of all of the other activities that were tagged in the same report. Okay, using the same outcome. Sorry. Okay, so this is how you do it. Nearly the same as the page tagging. Just click on it, choose the outcome that you need, and if you need a more specific one, just write it out. Okay, so that is for taggings. Widget tagging only works for the orange colored one, which is the post text widget. which is the posting widget. So outcome tags can only be added to widgets and pages after learners have already posted. Can also be added. The post will appear in the assessment report once you have done that. Okay, so don't worry if you accidentally, if the learners have submitted but you haven't set the tagging yet, because you can do that afterwards and it will show up in the report. Okay, so now you can tag your activities to the outcome. If you already have your course with the activities set up, you can do that for the pages, for the activities, and once you're done, you can just click I've tagged my content and activities with the relevant outcome. Okay, so once you did this, your progress bar will increase as well. Okay, all right. Okay. Hope I'm not going too fast. So let me know if I am. I'll try to slow it down. Okay. All right. So now we are going into looking at the roles in assessment. So as you may know, there are 5 roles in the OpenLearning platform in a course exactly. So there's the course admin, there's the facilitator, assessment designer, assessor, and learner. Okay. Yeah, so 5 roles. But for this workshop, we're just going to focus on the assessment designer and assessor roles. Okay. So for the assessment designer can access the assessment tab, which is this one, and has the ability to create assessment reports and customize the alignment of activities to the learning outcome. So the assessment designer can only do 2 of these things: create assessment reports and customize the alignment of the activities to the learning outcome. So they can't change the content, they can't update the activities or anything. They just can create the reports and customize the alignment. Okay, so the assessment designers are these roles, design assessment over here, if you want to set it up. And they can access these navigation tab. Okay, assessment, under assessment, they can see assessment settings and also report design. So as you can see, because I am an admin to this course, I have 3. But if I am just an assessment designer, I can only see 2, like this: assessment settings and also report design. Okay, right. And then you have an assessor. The second one is the assessor. So an assessor can access the assess learner section in the assessment tab and has the ability to review and evaluate the learner's work via reports created by the assessment designer. So the assessor can only review and evaluate the learner's work. Okay, so they cannot create the report. They cannot change the activities or anything. They can only assess the learner. Okay, so for the roles, they are under assessors over here. Okay, assessment designer is design elements and design assessment, and assessor is the assessors. Okay, so for an assessor, they can only access the this navigation tab, which is the assessment tab. Assessment, assess learner. So they would be able to see the assessment setting and the report design setting as well. You can only see the assess learner setting over here. Okay. They can actually also see credentials and administer learners. Like an assessment designer can also see administer learners, but specifically for assessment, they can only see assess learners. Okay. All right. So in order for you to assign these roles, if you have new people coming in and you want to assign these roles for the assessor or assessment designer, you need to go to course setup and then go to roles. Row. Okay, so this is how course setup roles, and then you will be in this page. Okay, so for example, I'll do one of our new colleague, Shaliza. I think Shaliza is already in here. She should be. Yes, Shaliza is already here. Yeah. Let me just use other. Okay, for example, I'll just use my other account, which is this one. But to be safe, if you, for example, I put Atika, just only Atika, you can see a lot of Atika, and you don't want to be accidentally put a different person, so you just put in their email, okay? For example, okay, so this makes it only 1% because it also ties to that email. So if you want to be safe, use their email to add them in. So let me just add my other self in. Okay, so I can see over here. I wanted to be for just this class. I wanted to be able to assess and also design assessment. So I just put in this role, okay? So that's how you set up somebody's role. But in order for you to put in this role for other people, make sure they have the educator license as well, okay? All right. So another tip is if you have created a course yourself, you will automatically be able to see the assessment tab. Okay, so if you created the course, you're able to see all of this tab and especially the assessment tab. However, if you are invited to a course to become the course administrator, you will need to set the role of assessment designer or the assessor yourself in order to see the assessment tab. So usually, even though you are an admin, you have, but if you are invited into the course, you have to set that role yourself. Okay. So for example, like in this course itself, it's actually not my course. It's actually my colleague Shaliza's course. I was invited as an admin, and I have made myself as the facilitator, assessment designer, and assessor. Okay, so if you're an admin, you are able to do that. But if you just want to set somebody as either of this role, you have to do that for them. Okay, let me just buang this. Okay. Do you guys have any questions before I move to the next part, which is where we are going to set up our reports? Okay, I think I am going to give like 1 minute, 2 minutes for us to take a breather before I move to the next part. Okay, let's take 2 minutes for you to maybe have a drink, get some food in or anything while before we continue to the next part. Let's take 2 minutes. We'll start back at 11:03. Yeah. All right, I hope everyone has got themselves some drinks or get some food. Let's start again. Let's start our session. Let's start back our session. Okay, so setting up reports. So by now you've already set the course outcome, tagged the outcomes to the activities or pages, and chosen the permissions in roles. Okay, so now we will create the assessment report in order for you to assess your students. Okay, so designing assessment on the OpenLearning platform. How do you do it? So in order for you to start creating the assessment, you can you can go to the left tab of your course. You will see a tab called assessment by default, and it will show up below the administer learners tab, administer learners tab over here. Okay, so you will see three options when you set when you click the assessment tab. So you will see assessment settings where you can set the assessment process, the report designs where you can okay. Sorry, let me open it again. Okay, so the report design is where you can design the assessment for each task, projects, assessment in your course, and finally the assess learners, where that's the page where the assessors come in to assess the learners. Okay, so in order for you to start creating the assessment report, just click to the report design, click the assessment tab first, and then once the drop-down menu appear, click the report design. Okay. Then in that page, you will see this bar where you need to click to create a new report. So there are three options of report, which is new report, new examination report, and new learner's fee exam report. Okay. So what you needed for open-ended activities is the new report one. So to add a new report, just choose new report and then click the button add report. Okay, and then once you have that, type in the report name, report weight, and you can think of a suitable name for your report. For example, major task, post completion report, and the report name. So basically the report name can also be associated with the final project, like a social media project or anything. So for the report, you can create as many reports as you want according to the needs of your course. So you don't need to just create one. You can create as many as you need. So if you're doing it based on project, as a report based on the project, like you have like 3 projects, so create 3 reports. But if you feel like you want to like have a course completion report, which is based on the outcome, you can just do 1 report as well. Okay. What design same as marking rubrics? Report design. Yes. So we have a question by Nadia, which is report design the same as marking rubrics? So marking rubrics, I think yes. Yes, this I guess because we have different phrases, different terms that we use, but the report itself is like a marking rubrics that you set up. Okay, so these are the rubrics. How do you plan to assess the learners? So this is where you set it up. The criteria is actually the rubrics, and the details of it, how much are the weightage, and everything that you need for that report. So as I mentioned, you can have as many as you want. If it's project based on projects, I think it makes more sense that it is a marking rubrics. where for that specific report is just for that social media project, for example. So you have all the which outcome that it ties to, what are the criteria, what is the assessment type that you are planning to, and what are the weightage that you will be that they are set for that report itself. Yeah. So yeah. So if it is like a marking rubrics, but also I guess in our terms, a report in for you to set up those rubrics into. Yeah. Okay, and then another question by Annalisa is, can you please explain the new Learnosity exam report? So this Learnosity exam report is actually, I think we are taking it out. This is for a different feature on the platform. So most probably this will be taken out in the future. So we have a Learnosity feature before this, which used this report. So most probably you will not be using this anymore, or you will not be using it at all. So so you can just ignore the Learnosity report. Okay, but for the examination report, that one is for the close-ended activities. So if you have quizzes, if you use any of the quiz widget, quiz multiple choice, short answer, fill in the blanks, match it, categorize, or crossword, you can use the new examination report for because that one is for automatic grading. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. Hope that that answers for both of your questions. Yeah. So I'm going to show you in a different course on how to set it up. Okay. So as I mentioned, in order for you to create a report, let me just go to a different class. Okay, so assessment, report design. Okay, oh, so. Let me see, different class. Okay. So this class doesn't have a report yet. So what I need to do is make sure that I'm clicking the new report and then click add report. Okay, so now that I have a report that I wanted, I can create as many as I wanted. So I can just click 2 right now, and then make sure the weightage, you set up the weightage. So right now we have 200%. Of course, that's not possible. So maybe this one is 50%, and then this one is 50%. Okay. Okay. So the red bar is gone. It's 100%. Okay, and then you can just change the title. So I'm gonna do the social media project. Okay, so I can still keep the total score as 100, but the weightage outside is 50%. So the system will calculate out of, so total score in here is 100, but outside it is 50%. Okay, so don't worry about it. The system will calculate it for you. Okay, so yeah, I have that. Click save. And you can do the same thing for the other if you created more. So course completion report, for example. And then for this one, maybe I want to put 50 also, 50. Total score is 50. Okay. Okay, click save first. Okay. All right. So that's it. for now. Okay. Okay. So I want you to set up your own reports. I think that is possible to do for I think maybe 3 minutes is okay for you to do already. I want you to create your report as I showed you just now. And then set the weight, and then just name your report accordingly. Okay, so do take note that the assessment on OpenLearning is structured around assessment report. This report defines how an assessor should evaluate the learner's achievement in relation to the course outcome. This is done through defining assessment criteria, which flesh out the learning outcomes and link them to the relevant collections of learners' work. Okay, so make sure that you remember before you create this how many reports that you have, that the report will be linked to the outcome. So as much as you are creating this on project base, make sure the project have an outcome. Okay. All right, I'm going to give you 3 minutes in order for you to do this. 3 minutes to just set up the report first. You don't need to put in the criteria just yet. So just the report. Okay, 3 minutes. All right. I hope some of you are able to do the report. So if you need, if you haven't run into any problems, just let us know in the chat. We'll try to get to you soon. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next page, which is setting your evaluation criteria. Write your evaluation criteria. So as stated before, the learners are assessed based on the course outcomes that you have specified earlier. Now let's add the evaluation criteria for each of the outcomes. You can also fill in the criteria weight as long as the total criteria weight are equal to the total weight of the report. Okay. So for example, this is for the graphic design course. We have the outcome over here, which is apply the graphic design elements to produce effective design in Photoshop and Illustrator. So you can see the criteria is the distance between elements used in the design appropriate? Right, weight is 5%. So these are some of you may use the term rubrics instead. Okay, so but in OpenLearning we use the term criteria. So there might be a different version of terms that we use. So another is the chosen color palette picked properly? Does the visual image fulfill the design purposes? These are also the evidence that I mentioned before. What are the evidence that you wanted to see in order for you to know that the learners are able have achieved or fulfilled the outcome over here? So for this this outcome over here, the assessment designer have this criteria set up, and they wait in order for them to see that the learners are able to fulfill all of this criteria or not. Okay, so fulfill this outcome. Okay, so how you can do this is how for you to add the criteria is go into the report design that you created, and under the learning outcome that you wanted, so there's a lot of outcomes. Like if you have like 5 outcomes, choose the outcome that you want to put in this criteria. So it doesn't have to be the first outcome. Sometimes it's the 4th outcome or anything. Just choose which of the outcome that you need to use, and then to add the criterion, just click add criterion. So when you click add criterion, it will expand for you to write in the description. So you can write the base main criteria, and then if you have additional description, you can add that in as well. This will help the assessor to understand what exactly do they need to evaluate. And also there are other things that you need, but for now just put in the criteria. So with each criteria there will be a weight. So if you just have one criteria and the report is for 100%, you can just pick the criteria for 100. Okay, all right. So yeah, so if you have a lot of criteria like this, make sure that the total criteria weight is the same as the total weight for the report. Okay, so let me show you how it is. So go into the report that you created. So for example, I'll choose this one. Click edit. So total score is 100. So I want to choose the outcome over here, this outcome. So if, for example, is the color palette chosen properly. Okay, so total score is 100. So maybe I'll just want to, well, this one is 20. Okay, and then I want to add more criteria, so I can add that in. So for that outcome itself, I can add as much criteria as I wanted. Okay, so is the design follow the theme, for example. Okay, and then 20. So I have to 20. So make sure that the total will is the same as the total score up here. Okay, so 20, 20. So I need 60 more. So I can also use the other outcome to help me with this, because sometimes our activities have multiple outcomes, right? So, okay, let's have graphic design. Able to discuss. Okay. Are the students able to discuss or able to integrate the design, something. So maybe like 60%, 60 out of 100. So to fulfill the total, right? So yeah, so these are just the criteria. You can have as many criteria to as many learning outcomes that you have for that activity. Because this one, I set it to be project-based. Okay. So what are the rubrics for you? It doesn't have to be in a form of question. It can be in a form of description. Student showcase good showcase good interpretation. Can't think of anything. Interpretation of advertisement or something like that. So it doesn't have to be in a form of question, but I think it does help to make it in a form of question, so that when another assessor comes in, they're like, whether did this student able to interpret the design as how we wanted it to be. So yeah, it's up to you on how you do it. But for us, we kind of do it like this. Okay. Okay. So that is just for the evaluation criteria. Okay. You can do that on your own time if you have a lot of it. Add everything that you have, the criteria, the rubrics that you need for that project. Okay. All right. So now we are going to choose the assessment type. So if you notice, when you expand the criteria, you also have this assessment type. Okay. So in OpenLearning, there are 4 different assessment types that you can choose to assess each criterion that you have. So Dr. Fatimah also showcased the different types of assessment type that she uses for her own report. Okay, so these types are bands, categories, numerics, or pass-fails. Okay, so I'm going to go to bands first. So for bands, use bands if you like the students to be assessed on a few categories at once. For example, in the graphic design course, the students are assessed based on the 4 categories, which are very well aligned, somewhat aligned, or not aligned. So these are the bands that they have used. So in each band, there are a range. Not aligned, 0 to 25. Somewhat aligned, 26 to 50. So if you want to use bands, this does make it a bit easier for the assessor to assess. You can use that as well. So this is how it looks like for the assessor later on, whether it's not aligned, somewhat aligned, well aligned, or very well aligned. So they can just choose any of the bands, or if they wanted to put in marks, they can do that as well. And they can see the learner's submission, which are the evidence, whether from there they can decide, okay, from this evidence, is it aligned, is it somewhat aligned, anything. So yeah. So also in bands, there is a description for each band that describes all the categories. Usually the description for the lower bands is for students with poor performance, while the description for higher bands means that the students improve all the categories. So how you can set bands is that in the assessment type now, just click on it and just choose bands. And then when you choose that, the settings will come up. Okay, so for bands, it looks like this. Okay, so you can put in the band name, or like for example, this one they use like not aligned, somewhat aligned, well aligned, very well aligned. So that is the band name. You can also use like band 1, band 2, band 3. As long as you understand what it is, put in the band description and the range for each band. Okay, so this will be evaluated out of 100. You can also, like for example, that weight is just 20 for that criteria. You can just, if you want to make it simpler for you to understand, you can evaluate it out of 20. But if you want to evaluate it out of 100, you can do so as well. The system will calculate it for you. You don't have to manually calculate it later on. Okay. Okay, and then this is an example from the financial management course. So they use band 1, band 2, band 3, band 4 like this, and then there's a description for it. So for band 1, it's like central point, lacks convincing support for ideas, include no interpretation and or analysis. So if the learners have something like this, they'll get band 1. So so the best one is band 5, which is if the learners show the evidence from the learner's work showcase a central point of description that's uniquely displayed and developed, reasons are uniquely developed, supports of reasons are uniquely accomplished, includes analysis, interpretations, and or critical ideas that deserve a band 5, then yeah, the assessor will choose band 5. So these, I think from my opinion, using band is the best one, best assessment type, because even if somebody else comes in, they will understand the description, the different types of assessment that they need to use to evaluate it. Okay, so you can also edit the settings for the students' post to be tagged specifically to a different tag. Like when we tag just now, we have like a specific quiz 1 or final test, right? For the tagging, you can put that in the evidence of learning as well. And also add an additional focus page so that it showcases the page that you have that question in, so that you don't have to click on a different page in order for you to see what kind of question it is, what the content are or anything. You can just set it in there as well. Okay, so if you can see, do you see additional focus page? You can also add the page in your course that is related to the course outcome by typing the name of the page, so that in the report you will be able to have a view of the whole page. So this is the additional focus page. Additional, this is the edit page to put in the additional tagging. So let me show you over here, assessment type, bands. So to add a band, how many bands you need. If you need just 3 bands, just put in 3. put in the band name, band description, the range, if you're happy, okay? And then for evidence of learning, so because this is for under this outcome, it will show the evidence for this outcome. But if you want to make it more specific, just click edit over here and add in the maybe quiz one. Yeah, so it will make it more specific to showcase the activities that have that outcome. And also, if you want to exclude posts that have a different outcome, you can just add that in as well. Just click done, and then additional focus page, maybe okay, line, shape, and texture. Okay, so it focuses on this page only for this this criteria. Okay, so if you have more of it, just put for the others as well. So that is for bands. Okay, so for categories is nearly the same as bands. Let's see. So categories is for when grades are not what is looked for, but more on the products that is produced by the students. Students' achievements are divided into categories. Each category has a specific criteria from the lowest to highest. So for example, in the graphic design course, students are assessed based on 4 categories, which are A for the highest achievement and F for the lowest. Okay, so this is how it looks like for the assessor. And another example of categories that you can use are like best, good, average, or poor. Okay, and for categories, setting up categories is just like bands. Just click on assessment type, choose categories, and then the options, the settings come up like this. So category name, value in percentage. So like bands, you have a description, but for categories, you don't have it. It's direct what category it is, and it goes by percentage instead of a range. Okay. Okay, so now you can see this is an example of how it will look like once you set it up. And the others are the same as bands. You can also add additional evidence of learning and the focus page as well. Okay, so let me show you how it looks like for categories. Okay, so this is for categories, right? Category, so add category. If you want to have like 5 categories, just add it in. A, 100%, B, 80, and so on and so on. Okay, so that is for categories. So for categories is a bit more straightforward. The value is by percentage, and for bands it's by range. You can have descriptions in it for it to be more clear. Okay. Okay. Then we have numeric. So for numeric is basically putting in numbers. Okay. So for this, I feel like you need to be more okay, sorry. So number assessment usually is the most common type of assessment used by examiners. Marks and percentage are given to students based on how much the students have achieved. For example, in the graphic design course, the students are assessed and given a mark from total of 100. Okay, so for numerics, you just look at the learner's work and then you decide, okay, I'm going to give this one like 80, or I'm going to give this one 60. So there's no specific range of how or rubrics on how you decide them to how you decide to put in those numbers, right? So like for example, like this one, does the visual message fulfill the design purpose? So the examiner just put in 64. Based on looking at the work, they just put in 64. So these are numeric. So for this type of assessment, it requires the assessor's expertise to decide on the marks to be given to the students. So for this one, I feel like this is much more open and might not be too clear. If somebody new comes in to assess, they need to be an expert in order to examine the learners, because it's very, very subjective on how they give their marks. Okay, but that is very possible for you to put in the numerics as well. So setting up numerics is very easy as well. Just choose a numerics, and then you will need to fill in the box with the total mark for the criteria. So you can just evaluate out of 12, or which is the same of criteria weight. And the evidence of learning or additional focus speech is the same. So let me show you if you're using numeric. Okay, so assessment type, numeric. So the only thing that you need to set up is just evaluate out of how much. So for this one, it's like criteria weight is 60, right? So I'm just gonna evaluate out of 60. So later on, assessor will just have to evaluate out of 60. Okay, you can also set it as evaluate out of 100. The system will calculate out of 100 how much is 60 does that becomes. Okay, yeah. So you don't have to manually calculate it, but to make it simpler, just make it the same as the criteria weight. Okay, and the evidence of learning, additional focus page is the same as the categories, bands, and others. Okay, so that is for numeric. And last one is pass-fail. So pass-fail is very direct. Either the student pass or the student failed the criteria. So like the name itself, it is as I mentioned, either they pass or fail the criteria. This type of assessment is chosen when there is only a right or wrong answer. When the student's answer is correct, they've passed and they get the full mark with our weights, and vice versa. So like for example, over here, the criteria is, does the design present all the relevant information to communicate the message? So if they did have all the relevant information, they pass and they get 2%. If they don't, they fail and they didn't get the 2%. So this is more straightforward for activities whether they pass or fail, okay? Not for those who need us to put in answers or anything, put in specific evaluation. So pass-fail, setting up pass-fail is very easy, very straightforward. If you choose pass-fail, there's no configuration that you need to set up. Choose pass-fail, no configuration. Once the assessor sees it, they just choose either pass or fail. Nothing else they need to look into. Okay, so this is an example of how you use pass-fail. So this is in Malay. So apakah definisi tingkah laku yang difahami oleh pelajar adalah, adakah pelajar menggambarkan tingkah laku ni, and the criteria weight is 5%. Jika dalam senarai yang diberikan mengandungi tingkah laku positif dan negatif, ini bermaksud pelajar sudah memahami bahawa tingkah laku kanak-kanak bukanlah hanya sesuatu yang tampak negatif. So if they do this, they pass. So jika dalam senarai tingkah laku yang disenaraikan adalah berupa tingkah laku negatif, bermasalah sahaja, maka pelajar perlu diperbetulkan melalui feedback daripada evaluator. So this one means that they fail. Okay, so if they you can put in the description in order to help the assessor in identify whether it is pass or fail. Okay, so yeah, so let me show you how. Pass fail. Okay, so no configuration, you don't have to set up anything, just like that, straight straightforward. Okay, so that is for pass fail. So you can decide which one will work or work for you on how to identify or assess the learners. You can have different types, different ways, different varieties, all up to you on how you designed it. Okay. So if you set custom categories or bands, you can have them as presets as well to be reused across all assessment reports in a course. So if you have created, for example, categories or bands just now, you can save this as presets so that when you are creating it again using the same criteria, the same value and everything, you don't need to set it up again. You can just use the presets. Okay. I think this can be seen. So let me just save this bit. New class. Okay. So for example, okay. Okay, sorry. For example, this one. Okay. Oh, no preset as well. Okay. Okay, so you can see over here, there's a preset. So it means that, for example, if I use category 1, preset category 1, I don't have to retype this. Same as the bands, I don't have to retype it. If I have a long description or anything, I can use the same one. I don't need to retype the same one over and over because it is saved as presets already. Okay. All right. Okay, so choose whichever works for you. Okay. All right. Okay, so now that you have looked into the how-tos and know-hows of assessment settings, I want to see you do your own report. Okay, so I want to see you set up your own report on OpenLearning by doing this activity. So this activity is a two-part activity. So part 1 is the assessment plan. So if you remember, Dr. Fatima shared the assessment plan that she used, which is this one. We are also sharing it for you to use. So you can use the same document for you to put in your assessment plan. So you can just download the document, assessment report document over here, click the download button. And then what I want you to do is fill in the report with your own assessment. Okay, so you need to have at least one report title and the total score, one of course outcome, and one of each of the criteria below for each outcome. So you need to fill in the outcome criteria, the weightage, the assessment type, the description, evidence of learning, and additional focus page. These are all optional but are highly suggested. So yeah, this is the first part of the activity which you need to do. So I'll show you what the document is about. So the assessment process, whether you want the learners to decide when they're ready or not, you can just set this yes or no. And this is the part that's most important. So put in the report name, like for example, the social media project, and just put in over here, what's the total score for that report. Maybe it's 50%, maybe it's 50, maybe it's 100, it's up to you. And then first one is the outcome. So you put in the outcome, you put in the tagging, and then what are the criteria? If you have more than one criteria, criteria 1, criteria 2, put in the, what is it? If you have a description, you can put in description, put in the weightage. If you have other evidence of learning or the focus page, you can put it in as well. But what I wanted to see is what's the assessment type? Is it bands, categories, numerics, or pass-fail? Okay, so I have set up some examples in here. You can refer that, or also you can refer to the other learners' submission as well. Okay, you can take a look at their submissions and see. Yeah, see their work as well. I think for the ones that have the like button over here are the ones that I have already checked. So feel free to go through them and see my comments, how they work and everything, if you want to get some idea on how to create this. Okay, so that is the first part. Once you have that, I want you to set up that report on the OpenLearning platform. So the second part is put that report on the OpenLearning platform. So it's time for you to create what you have planned on the OpenLearning platform. Using the report document that you have submitted, set up the assessment report in your own course on OpenLearning. Make sure you include the report title and total score, one outcome criteria, weightage, and assessment type. If you have the optional criteria set up in the template, you can set them up in the assessment report on OpenLearning too. And once you have done that, take a screenshot and share it in here. Okay, so you can see some of the examples over here. Yeah. So if possible, make it not if possible. Take a screenshot that is expand. Okay, so I can see what are the criteria that you use. For example, like this. Okay, so open, expanded. I can see the report title, the total score, the criteria. If you have the description as well, you can show it, the criteria weight and the assessment type. So if you also have the additional focus page set up, you can have that as well, set up that as well so that I can see it. Okay, so this is the main one of your which will be part of your submission for the OpenLearning Ambassador Program. Okay, so this is a two-part activity. Take your time in doing this. You can do this after the workshop and send it whenever you are done. Okay, so don't worry about it. Take your time, think it over. If you have any problems, just let us know. You can just ask us in the questions over here. Okay. Okay. Before I move to the next part, I mean, we're nearly at the end already. So before I move to the next part, are there any questions that you want to clarify or you want to know for him? So just to also clarify for you, you need to do this activity, use the assessment report document, download it. Once you've put in all your own criteria or outcome assessment designs, share your file over here, and then I'll evaluate it. I'll give you my feedback, and then for part 2, set it up on the OpenLearning platform. So that is under report design over here. Okay. Any questions? Okay, so we'll go to the last part, second last part, which is assessing learners. So now that you have your report, you've set it up on the OpenLearning, you can start assessing your learners. So you can start assessing your learners once they have submitted their work. So to assess your learners, you need to go to the assessment tab and then assess learners. Okay. So on that page, you will see a table of all your learners organized by the report. Each entry shows how much that learner's report has been graded, and select one of the entries to begin the assessment. Okay. And inside will be the list of criteria. Once you click the criteria, it will expand to give you the details on what and how to evaluate. This should include the evidence of learning, which is represented by a tagged collection of learners' work. If no learners' work appears, check that the related activity have been tagged correctly or not. Okay. As you evaluate each criteria, the total score at the bottom of the page will be adjusted to reflect the changes. Below the total score is a comment box where the assessors can also include their feedback for the learners to look into. Okay. Once the assessor has finished evaluating the desired layer, they can release the results via the release button on the students list. Results can be released immediately or on a date in the future. There's also an option for releasing each learner's report manually as well. When you release a report, the report result will become accessible to the learners. The learners will receive a notification that the results are available, and they can access their report results from the notification bar over here, or their progress page over here. Okay, so for example, let me show you how it looks like here. Yes, learners. Okay, so this is how it looks like once the assessor wants to assess the learners. So if you see 2 out of 25 criteria graded, means that there's more criteria to be graded in order for it to complete. So right now, the only complete one is from Diana Jamal, which is 84.82. So, and also Chandru's one, Balasandar. Okay, so let's see Shaliza's Diana Jamal over here. So these are the criteria. When you want to assess them, just click on it. These are already evaluated, so I'm just showing you how it looks like. So this is for the first criteria. So if I want to change it, I can just, I'm an assessor, so I can just change it to pass. So Shaliza will get this 5%. So for example, if I put fail over here, you can see she get 84.82%. If I click pass, she gets 89.82. So these are calculated automatically by the system. You don't have to worry about it because you have set all of those in the report just now. So this one is just assessing it. You don't have to recalculate anything anymore. Okay? You just have to look at the learner's work and see whether they have fulfilled the criteria or not. Okay, so this is an example of the students' work, the focus page. So if you're looking at this activity, is the distance between the elements used in this design appropriate? You can see that the learner's work is over here, but you want to see more what the page is about, you can just click over here. It will pop up this page and you can see which page is it from, what's the activity, well, not this activity. I think it was, which activity that Shaliza did. So you can see the focus page over here. So you can see all the question, all other learners' work as well. Yeah, so that's it. That's how the focus page works. So you can decide whether to pass or fail, and then for other ones, you can decide the criteria as well. You can see this one from the Diana Jamal. You can see there's a lot of submissions. It's because the evidence is not tagged specifically. So if you want to make it just to that submission to that activity, you have to make sure that the outcome specifically tag the outcome. Put in the evidence as specific as possible. Okay. Okay, so that is how it looks like. And if you have any feedback you want to put in, you can write it in here. Once you release this report, the learners can also see this comments as well. Okay, so see. So right now, Diana Jamal's report is released, so she can already see it. But so for Bala Sandar over here, his criteria, his report has been graded. You can see the total score over here, but it has not been released. So it means that even though it has been graded, he cannot see it yet. His report. Okay. So if you want to release it, just click on it. So now Bala Sandar can see his report as well. He will get a notification that the report is released, so he can click on that and see his report. Okay. So if you want to know more on how to release the assessment result in batches, you can click on this as well. Okay. All right. So we are at the end of our session. So congratulations on completing this workshop. We have another one more workshop coming up, which is in October, because in September we have another workshop on micro credentials, which will be led by my colleague Chandru. But for basics workshop, it will be in October, the last one, and for facilitation. Okay. So if you missed the previous one, the first, second, and third workshop, you can still go into the course. You can just click on this link and submit your work. So and I will give my feedback on your work once you have submitted them. So for the coming, the one that is coming up, you can already go into that course if you want to. If you can't wait until October, you can just go in right now. But if you want to wait for the live session, it will be on October, if I'm not mistaken. October, forgot one. October, oops. October 19th. Yes, October 19th on a Wednesday. Okay, so for and just to notify you, if you completed this workshop, you will receive completed this workshop, submitted the work, and if I check your course, your submissions, and there's no problem at all, there's no need for any adjustments or anything, I will award you with the assessment designer badge. So you don't for the previous one, course designer, you have to complete 3 workshops in order for you to get that badge. But for this one, you need to complete this workshop. And for the last one as well, you need to complete the last workshop in order for you to get the course facilitator badge. So there's 3 badges for you to collect in order for you to receive the OpenLearning Ambassador certificate. Okay. All right. So if there are nothing, if you don't have any questions, feel free to put in your reflections of the workshop, what you like about the session, which part is the most beneficial for you. And also, we would love to get your feedback on the overall workshop, whether I'm too fast, whether the content is okay. All of those, you can just give your feedback by clicking this icon. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so do you have any questions? That is basically the end of our session. Do anybody have any questions that you need to ask? Feel free to do it now. If you don't, we actually passed 5 minutes, 5 minutes past 12. So if you need to leave, I hope to see you again in the next session. In the next session, if you want to find out more about the ambassador program, feel free to let me share some links for you in the chat. Stop sharing. Okay, if you want to know more about the ambassador program, you can just go into the link that I shared. If you need any technical help, you can always contact our support team via the chat bubble in your course, or you can also email them at support@openlearning.com. Support@openlearning.com if you need more help. But if you need any live help when designing your course, you can join our open hour session next week, which will be on Wednesday, at 2 p.m. So you can just click on the click on the link over there and register for our next open hour session. So so I have a question by Annalisa. You have completed the first three courses. Yes, I have seen your submission as well. Unfortunately, I haven't looked into the other two courses, I think. But I will really try. I will get to you as soon as I can, and I will award you with the badges if there is no problem or amendments that are needed. So thank you so much for submitting your work, Annalisa. And last thing, if you want to know more about upcoming events that on OpenLearning, you can subscribe to our events calendar. So if you want to know more, if you want to register to upcoming events, workshop, or the workshop that I mentioned just now that Chandru's doing in September, you can subscribe to our events calendar over here. But so we put in all our events in the calendar, and you can register for the ones that are you are interested in. Okay, so if there's no more questions, And we can end the session right here if there are. Thank you. Feel free to put in your questions. Thank you everyone for joining our session today. Thank you for my team who has been helping at the back end. If there is anything, feel free to let us know by contacting us in the course. Thank you everyone. I'll see you in the next workshop. Bye.